Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world with me, Deepika, coming up in the next half an hour. India stands in solidarity with Canada. Prime Minister Narendra Modi offers condolences after 10 die in British Columbia school shooting. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to push Donald Trump on Iran missile program in White House talks. Iran says will not give in to excessive demands. Russia warns of military response if Greenland sees increased Western forces. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addresses Indian Parliament on national budget. And amidst political turmoil, Bangladesh is all set to head to the polls on the 12th of February. More than 150,000 officers deployed to guard risky polling centres. Good evening to all the viewers joining us at this evening broadcast. To begin with the latest from Canada. In a tragic shooting incident in Canada, at least 10 people were killed on Tuesday in a remote part of Western region. 6 people were found dead inside a high school in Tumbler Ridge. 2 more people were found dead at a residence believed to be connected to the incident, and another person died on the way to the hospital. A suspected shooter was also found dead from what appears to be a self-inflicted injury. According to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, 27 people were injured, including 2 with serious injuries. Tumbler Ridge is a remote municipality with a population of around 2,400 people located in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains in northern British Columbia. Canadian Prime Minister expressed grief over the deadly school shooting and suspended his planned visit to the Munich Security Conference. Mark Carney expressed his devastation over the shooting. He offered prayers and condolences to the victims' families and friends. Following the tragedy, Prime Minister's office confirmed that his scheduled trip to Munich Security Conference has been suspended. Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended his heartfelt condolences to the families who have lost their loved ones in a shooting incident in Canada. In a message posted on X, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, and I quote him here, "Deeply shocked by the horrendous shooting in Canada, I extend my heartfelt condolences to the families who have lost their loved ones and wish a speedy recovery to the injured. India stands in solidarity with the people of Canada in this moment of profound grief." Unquote. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Special Envoy to US Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner in Washington on Tuesday. He is also expected to meet Donald Trump, and this will be the 7th meeting between Donald Trump and Netanyahu since the US president returned to the office last year. They also met in Jerusalem in October last year when Trump announced a ceasefire in Gaza. Wednesday's meeting comes days after Iran and the United States held talks in Oman, after which Trump said another round of negotiations would follow. The discussion is also expected to focus on energy issues and deregulation.
Tomorrow here at the White House, the president will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a bilateral meeting. The remainder of the week will be focused on energy and deregulation.
Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani held a telephonic conversation with US President Donald Trump on Wednesday. The Emiri Divan said the two leaders discussed efforts for regional de-escalation and stability. The call comes ahead of a meeting between Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, where the Israeli Prime Minister is expected to press him to widen the US talks with Iran to include curbs on Tehran's missile arsenal. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on Wednesday said Tehran would not yield to excessive demands over its nuclear program, even as the talks with the United States resume. Speaking at Tehran's Azadi Square during the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution, he reiterated that Iran is not seeking an atomic weapon and is ready for verification of its nuclear activities. Negotiations between Iran and the US restarted last week for the first time since last June's conflict with Israel, during which the US carried out strikes on Iranian nuclear sites.
Our country, Iran, will not yield to their excessive demands. Iran will not give in to injustice or aggression, but with all our capacity and in pursuit of peace and stability in the region, we are engaged in dialogue with our neighboring countries. The problem of the region can be solved by those who live in the region.
The European Union on Wednesday said it wanted to tighten drone registration, create no-fly zones and ramp up detection at critical sites after a string of unexplained sightings rocked European countries last year. The spate of mysterious flights that shut the airports, buzzed military bases and passed near nuclear sites laid bare gaps in Europe's security in the face of worries over the threat from Russia. The new action plan announced by Brussels is meant to cover the civilian sector following the launch of an initiative to build a system of military counter-drone defences last year. European Union officials said that as part of the efforts, they want to step up the mandatory registration of drones across the bloc to be able to better keep track of potential menaces. Brussels wants to expand regulation to cover smaller drones from the current lower limit of 250 grams to 100 grams. Britain announced on Wednesday it will boost its troops stationed in Norway and play a vital role in a NATO Arctic mission in face of rising Russian threats. The UK's decision to double its troops in Norway from 1,000 to 2,000 in the next 3 years comes as the US was set to relinquish 2 top regional NATO command posts to press allies to take greater responsibility for their defence. The UK and Norway last December signed a new defence pact that would see their navies jointly operate a warship in the North Atlantic. Francis Marie Le Pen's appeal trial over alleged misuse of European Parliament funds is ending on Wednesday with one question looming. Will the French far-right leader be able to run for the president next year? Well, earlier this month, prosecutors in the appeal trial requested a 5-year ban on running for public office for Le Pen, but said this should not be enforced immediately. Le Pen is challenging a March 2025 verdict that found her and over 20 other members of her National Rally Party guilty of misusing European Parliament funds in the hiring of aides from 2004 to 2016 and banned her from holding elected office for 5 years. A political storm linked to Jeffrey Epstein is intensifying on both the sides of the Atlantic. In Washington, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is facing mounting calls to resign after admitting he once visited Epstein's private island. Meanwhile, in Britain, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is battling pressure within his own party over an Epstein-linked appointment. Here's a report by DD India's Harshita Oberoi.
Mounting pressure is building on U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick as fresh revelations revive scrutiny of his past links to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. At the center of the storm, Lutnick's admission that he had lunch on Epstein's private Caribbean island in 2012, years after he had previously claimed to have severed all ties with the late financier. Emailed records now show plans for a meeting at Epstein Island. Lutnick insists there was nothing improper about the visit. He maintains he saw no wrongdoing and said only his family, another couple, and Epstein's staff were present at the time.
I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him. And then a year and a half after that, I met him and never again. Probably the total, and you've seen all of these documents, of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person.
Despite growing calls for his resignation, President Donald Trump's administration has stood firmly by Lutnick.
No, Secretary Lutnick remains a very important member of President Trump's team, and the president fully supports the secretary.
Across the Atlantic, Epstein controversy is brewing up a political tempest for UK PM Keir Starmer. He's come under pressure over his decision to appoint veteran Labour figure Peter Mandelson as ambassador to Washington. A day after facing demands to step down, Prime Minister confirmed he will lead the Labour Party into the next election.
Well, what's happened over the last few days is that we've pulled together as a party and been absolutely crystal clear about the fight we need to have. And that's the fight on behalf of all the people in this country who don't get the respect, the dignity and the chance that they deserve in life. So that is the fight that we are in. That's who we're fighting for. I'm their Prime Minister and this is their government.
Starmer now faces a key by-election on February 26th, followed by local elections in May, votes that could shape his and his party's future. Harshita Broy, DD India.
The United States on Tuesday moved to further relax restrictions on Venezuela's oil sector, expanding efforts to let American companies resume operations after state controls were lifted. The U.S. Treasury Department issued a license permitting certain transactions with Venezuela's government and state-run oil company PDVSA to supply goods, technology and software for oil and gas exploration and production. Additional licenses authorize specific dealings required for port and airport operations and allow limited activities involving Venezuelan origin crude. Washington has supported the government of interim President Delcy Rodriguez in exchange for access to vast oil reserves. Time to take a quick and short break, but still to come on the other side. Russia says it will stick to nuclear weapons limits if US does so. Indian Parliament's lower house, Lok Sabha, resumes discussion on Union Budget 2026-27.
On defense dynamics, India fires a message the world can't ignore. Agni 3, the strategic signaling to China and Pakistan. Why AMCA, India's 6th generation fighter, must be built by private players. Winning the low sky inside the Indian Army's radar reset. As middle powers rise, the arms market becomes a battlefield. And in my take, Pakistan's collapse and shock ahead. For all this and much more, tune in this Wednesday at 8 PM IST only on DD India.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India Live. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Wednesday that Moscow will take military countermeasures if the West boosts its own military footprint on Greenland. Several European countries have sent small contingents of troops to Greenland in recent weeks after President Donald Trump repeatedly said he wanted to annex the Arctic island. Lavrov said in a speech to Russian lawmakers that Russia will take adequate countermeasures, including military technical ones.
Military capabilities aimed at Russia, we will take adequate countermeasures, including military ones. Our principled position is clear. Nevertheless, the Arctic should remain a zone of peace and cooperation.
Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Wednesday that Russia will keep observing the missile and warhead limits in the New START nuclear treaty with the United States, which expired last week, as long as Washington continues to do the same. The 2010 treaty ran out on the 5th of February, leaving the world's two biggest nuclear-armed powers with no binding constraints on their strategic nuclear arsenals. US President Donald Trump declined a formal proposal from Russian President Vladimir Putin to voluntarily abide by the new START limits for another year. Lavrov said Moscow would stick to the limit itself for now.
The United States has given no official response to President Putin's initiative that both sides continue to voluntarily observe the Strategic Offensive Arms Treaty central limits on strategic offensive nuclear-capable arms. Our position is that this moratorium on our side that was declared by the President is still in place, but only as long as the United States doesn't exceed the said limits. Overall, we will act responsibly and carefully based on our analysis of US military policy, which we conduct on a daily basis, and our assessment of the overall strategic situation.
Amid the ongoing budget session of the Indian Parliament, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman replied to the discussion on the Union Budget 2026-27 in the Lok Sabha. In her initial reply, Finance Minister said the government is focused on forward-looking initiatives, including the expansion of multi-purpose health facilities, skill development, entrepreneurship and allied health services across various states.
The allied and health service, where we want to set up medical hubs, states can aspire to be a part of it, wherein all the aspects of medical education and hospitals for treatment of patients can all be focused in one area, where nurses or any other 10 different allied health services will have their institutions through which people can learn, get themselves skilled, find jobs there itself, and that will become a medical tourism hub. So any state can qualify, and I'm sure states which have traditional strength.
India and Oman continue to strengthen their long-standing partnership with growing cooperation in trade, manufacturing and industrial development. In this special interaction, DD India's Ankit Mishra spoke with Muntir al-Rawahi, the project head of the Ladayan project, and Yahya Dugaishi, Councillor for Trade and Promotion at the Embassy of the Sultanate of Oman in New Delhi. Take a listen.
Very warm welcome of you. I am Ankit Mishra with you and you are watching DD India. We are going to discuss about India-Oman economic relationship. Not just about the economic relationship, we are also discuss about aluminium manufacturing, downstream industry and also new investment opportunities. Because we all knows about that Oman is a emerging key industrial hub in a Gulf region. That's the reason behind of that why Indian companies are exploring new avenues for a collaboration and expansion. To more discuss about in detail, we are joined by two distinguished guests with us, Mr. Muntar Ali Rawahi and Mr. Yahya Ali Dugasi. Thank you for joining us, sir. Let me start with my first question, Mr. Al Rawahi. Could you briefly explain Oman downstream aluminium cluster and the vision behind the Ladayan project?
Today we are here to explore and to give the opportunities also for the Indian manufacturers to know more about those products and also what benefits they will get if they will set up the manufacturing, their manufacturing facility in Oman next to Oman Aluminium Rolling Company. And we are here today to invite the Indian manufacturers to expand their business and also to explore different markets from Oman. As you mentioned at the beginning, I like that statement, by the way, which is Oman considered as a hub in the GCC region. So from Oman, you can access to different market, to bigger market.
Let me join with us Yahya Al Dugasi, who is a Councillor, Trade and PR, Oman Embassy in Delhi. Sir, what message would you like to convey to Indian industry leaders, especially after PM Modi focus on expanding India global industry footprint?
The last visit of His Excellency Prime Minister of India to Oman, it's based on our long-standing historical relation between Oman and India. This historical relation has enhanced by the signing of SEBA agreement during the visit. And also Oman actually offers key investments, incentives for the Indian investors, including 100% ownership and tax exemption friendly business environment.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving this insight knowledge about Oman-India relationship with us and sharing your valuable time and your thoughts with us. So now with the camera person Kumar Datta, Ankit Mishra for DD India.
In Bangladesh, the Election Commission on Wednesday began distributing ballot boxes and other election materials to the polling centres across the country ahead of the 13th national parliamentary election and referendum scheduled to take place tomorrow. According to the Bangladesh Election Commission, ballot boxes are expected to reach the polling centres by evening. At the distribution points, polling officials were seen collecting materials under the supervision of law enforcement agencies. Officials said the items are being checked against official lists before being transported, and booths will be set up in preparation for voting. Polling will take place from 7:30 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. local time without any break across 42,779 centres in 299 constituencies. Voting in Sherpur 3 has been postponed following the death of a candidate. The Election Commission said 12.77 crore voters, including 6.48 crore men and 6.28 crore women, are eligible to cast their vote. The referendum, which is to be held alongside the general election, seeks public approval for key constitutional and institutional reforms under the proposed July Charter. However, critics argue that placing multiple reforms under a single yes or no vote limit the voters' ability to make individual choices and narrows space for debate. Security has been tightened nationwide with nearly 958,000 members of law enforcement agencies supported by the army deployed to ensure a peaceful environment. Checkpoints and patrols have been intensified in Dhaka, while CCTV cameras have been installed at more than 90% of polling centres for round-the-clock monitoring. And ahead of Bangladesh elections, parties are expressing concerns over incidents of violence. Meetings with BNP Election Management Committee was held to discuss the issue of security and inclusion of the overall election situation. While Islamic leaders called on the voters to support Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the coalition party leader has accused Jamaat-e-Islami of spreading extremist messages after the July 2024 uprising. At this sensitive time, a Bangladeshi Hindu businessman was killed on Monday night, raising fears of targeted violence ahead of the polls. There have been repeated concerns raised by the rights group and observers about the safety of vulnerable communities. To ensure security during the polling, nearly 900,000 members of the army, police and other forces have been deployed. Election Commissioner Abul Faisal Mohammed said that Bangladesh has a comprehensive security structure in place and the international people can feel free to move anywhere. On to sports now. South Africa survived the group of death by outlasting Afghanistan in a match that went into two super overs in Group D encounter at the ongoing T20 Cricket World Cup in Ahmedabad. The match went to super over after both the teams finished on 187 runs. Proteas had it won when the last over of regulation time began, when Afghanistan needed 13 with 1 wicket in hand. Kagiso Rabada though bowled 2 no balls, but a running error allowed them to tie the match. They were then done and dusted, but Tristan Stubbs hit a last ball 6 to force a second super over. This one left Afghanistan needing 4 sixes of 4 balls. Rahimullah Gurbaz, who scored 84 of 42 in regulation time, hit 3 of them, needed just 4 to take it to the third super over, but hit straight to the point for a wicket, leaving them heartbroken. Led by siblings Nika and Dumentrevich, Slovenia secured the gold medal in mixed team ski jumping event at Milano Cortina Olympics. The Slovenian team produced a series of consistency, strong jumps to finish at 1,069.2 points, sealing a victory over Norway. Slovenia entered the competition as favourites and delivered throughout, building a decisive lead after the opening round. Dumentrevich sealed the victory with the final jump of 102 metres, securing Slovenia's first goal in ski jumping at these Olympics. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.